From the 1960s show that featured Adam West as the Caped Crusader, to the countless films depicting the character over the past few decades, Batman has no shortage of iconic adaptations that fans can enjoy. But the upcoming miniseries focusing on the Penguin has raised a lot of questions among audiences. Will Batman have a role in the series? It might sound like an odd thing to ask, because the Penguin's defining characteristic is that he's one of Batman's most complex foes. But despite that, rumors have been circulating that Batman won't have a place in the show, with some speculating that we won't get to see Robert Pattinson at all, and others have been theorizing that he could appear as Bruce Wayne, but never put his costume on. You might be wondering, why on earth would a show about a Batman villain not feature the Dark Knight in some way, shape, or form? Well, it all has to do with the history of the character's rights. Batman's film rights have been owned by Warner Brothers since the 1970s. It took nearly 2 decades to make a movie about the iconic superhero, but they managed to get their hands on the rights way back in 1972. Or rather, a company known as the Kinney National Service ended up buying out Warner Brothers Communications, along with DC Comics in its entirety, forming the company that we now know as Warner Brothers Entertainment. This gave them the movie and TV rights to pretty much every superhero in the DC roster. But there was a catch. It turns out that Batman's TV rights had already been snapped up years before all of this happened. 20th Century Fox beat Warner Brothers to the punch in the 1960s. That's why they were able to make the Adam West show that's gone down in history. So even though Warner Brothers had the ability to make Batman movies after the 1972 merger, any small screen adaptations were off the table. 20th Century Fox couldn't make any more Batman content for the small screen either, because the TV rights were trapped in a bit of a legal quagmire. You see, the question of who had the rights to adapt Batman for TV audiences was tough to answer. Legally speaking, Warner Brothers had the strongest claim because they owned all of DC. But 20th Century Fox had already made a TV series, and they still owned the rights to any depiction of Batman's likeness that weren't intended for movie theaters. But wait, hasn't Batman appeared on TV on a bunch of different shows? That might be true, but it's more complicated than you think. You see, none of the live-action shows set in Gotham City actually feature Batman, at least not directly. Sure, there's Gotham, which showed the rise of Jim Gordon and painted a stark picture of the city's criminal underbelly, and Bruce Wayne was a major character on the show. But Batman? He's nowhere to be seen. Admittedly, Bruce is still a kid during Gotham's storyline. Still, it's pretty weird that a show about Gotham didn't give us a glimpse of the Dark Knight. We got to see him for a brief moment in the series finale, and the writers of the show said that that was a purely creative decision. But I have a hard time believing that. It's just way more likely that there were legal restrictions prohibiting them from showing Batman in any scenes. Titans is yet another show that Batman would have been in. After all, its main character is none other than Nightwing, who happens to be the Dark Knight's first ever protege. You can argue that the showrunners didn't want to distract from Dick Grayson's storyline, but are you seriously telling me that his father figure had nothing to do with his life as a grown-up crime fighter? What's more, Batwoman is perhaps the most Batman-adjacent character out there, but even her show didn't mention the Caped Crusader, let alone give the fans the chance to watch him in action. All of this makes me think that questions of legality keep coming up, and they throw a wrench in the works whenever someone thinks of a TV show with Batman. To make matters worse, one of Warner Brothers' biggest competitors decided to buy 20th Century Fox, which no one saw coming. See, here's the thing. Disney's acquisition of Fox created even more complications, because the entertainment giant didn't just buy the rights to Fox's films. They also became the owners of every IP Fox had acquired over the years. The main reason for this deal was that Disney wanted the rights to X-Men, Spider-Man, and the Fantastic Four. These are some of the most famous Marvel characters of all time, but the MCU wasn't able to feature them in any of their phases because the rights belonged to Fox. Now that Disney owns the company, they can finally bring these characters into the MCU without a hitch. But in case you forgot, Fox also happens to own the TV licensing and distribution rights for Batman. Does that mean that Disney has to consent if Warner Brothers wants to feature Batman in a live-action TV show? If they do, I'd imagine that'd be a real nightmare for WB. Disney's their single biggest competitor, at least as far as the superhero genre is concerned, and having to deal with them for the most iconic and famous superhero in the DC canon could create all sorts of hurdles. So it's easy to see why fans are questioning whether or not they'll get to see Battison one more time on the Penguins show. Luckily for us, James Gunn was quick to put this matter to rest once and for all. The new DCU boss gave fans the confirmation they'd been waiting for. More specifically, he clarified that the rumors of Disney owning Batman's TV rights are completely untrue. We can all breathe a sigh of relief now that we know this. I gotta tell you, I was pretty worried for a second there.
Show me the post. It's right here.
A Penguin show without Batman is like a ship without a sail. Sure, it might float, but I have a hard time believing it'd go anywhere. Now, I'd suggest we don't get our hopes up too much, because Gunn didn't confirm or deny whether Pattinson's Batman would make an appearance. All he said was that Disney's acquisition of Fox didn't include Batman's TV license. I have no idea how that works, but it's not like I'm a legal expert.
Don't look away. Any time to make IDs.
Great.
So I'm fine with taking Gunn at his word, and to tell you the truth, there are actually plenty of other explanations for Batman's lack of a TV presence. The superhero's traditionally been used to make tentpole films. That's just Hollywood jargon for moneymakers that keep studios alive. Not every movie's gonna be a blockbuster hit, so major studios often rely on guaranteed profits from certain films to make up for other losses. And there's no better bet than a Batman film. Given how much money Warner Brothers can make from a theatrical adaptation, it kinda makes sense that they'd want to avoid any small screen stuff. If Batman appears a bit too often, that could ruin the character's mystique.
You lie still. About her? Maybe.
I totally get where they're coming from. I'd still be willing to buy a ticket for the next Batman movie, even if I get to see the superhero on streaming shows a few times. But I'm a hardcore Dark Knight diehard fan, so casual fans might not have the same opinion. Of course, restricting Batman to the big screen makes every film even more of an exclusive event, because if you want to see Batman, you either have to buy a film ticket or wait for ages for a streaming release down the line. This seems like the most likely reason why Batman won't show up on the Penguins' upcoming show, although there's still a chance that Bruce Wayne might appear here or there. We'll just have to wait and see. That's all you need to know about James Gunn killing the rumors surrounding Batman's TV rights.